And we're very honored to partner officially with Wilmington College tonight for our Wilmington College Sports Night. And we have some very distinguished individuals up here that will be sharing their stories. If this is your first time joining us, this event is emceed by Wilmington News Journal sports editor Mark Huber. And we do have future events planned. You can find out more about that on our website, clintoncountyhistory.org. If you don't know anything about the History Center, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is Clinton County history and genealogy for everyone. So that includes everybody in this room. And again, we're very excited to bring this event to you all tonight. We will have opportunities for questions and answers. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and Mark will take care of that. So without further ado, please give our panel a round of applause and welcome Mark to the speaker series.
Thank you, Shelby. History for Clinton County, especially when it comes to sports, there has not been a longer running history in athletics than Wilmington College. And so, that being said, history doesn't have to be old. I think a lot of young people think, gosh, it's history. When they hear that, they think, oh, it's going to be old and boring. But it's not. History can be fun. And I think we have a diverse group of people up here who can confirm that. Our panelists here, we have David Resk, who's father of Fred Resk, if there was ever a Mr. Anything when it came to a particular school, whether it's high school or college. His dad was Mr. Wilmington College. Fred was, he coached everything for a lot of years. And he was just an amazing guy. And I think the college, he was also an athletic director. And so I don't think the college would be where it is in a lot of ways without the involvement of Fred Resk. Next to David, we have Jerry Sheedy, who is not a Wilmington College alum, but he's a professor here for a long time. He was also the women's basketball coach when the team won the national championship, as you see on the poster board over there. Jerry was the head coach of that team and for a lot of other teams here at Wilmington College. Next we have Simon Hayes, who is a track and field athlete, cross-country runner, and if you live in town or you travel around town, you've seen Simon out there. He runs and runs and runs. He probably would be running if he wasn't here. And so we may have to tie him down, I don't know. But, he has poured his heart and soul into running, and it is shown with all the accolades and the honors that he has won over the years. And I found out tonight he has one more year of track and field that he can participate in. And so, good luck to him individually, but more so for the Wilmington College team, because there could be big things in the future there with that program and on a national level. And down at the end, we have Ashley Wolf. She was a national champion pole vaulter at Wilmington. She also went to Wilmington High School and was a highly decorated track and field athlete, highly decorated swimmer. I'm sitting here thinking about all the things that she's done. I'm getting tired. When you talk about people who do things in high school and then that's good. And you think about what she went through, that takes it to a whole different level. So excited to be able to ask these four some questions. And please, if you do have questions, we'll kind of stop at various points. And if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll get to you, and we'll have them answer it. And at the end, hopefully they'll each have a little story they can leave you with. So we're going to get this started we're kind of looking for 4 or 5 minutes per answer. Mr. Resk, is that going to be a problem? Get that into a time frame. 5 minutes.
I got you.
All right.
I got you covered.
Okay. All right. So we'll start with Ashley. impact and from a sports standpoint, how did that form a path in your life growing up here in Clinton County?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Wilmington and on Orchard Road. And one thing that I really value about my parents is they opened the door for any sport that I was interested in doing. So I did gymnastics over here at the Y forever. I swam with the Clinton County Barracudas from age 4 to 19. I did rec sports, just anything I wanted to do, softball, soccer, which was just really neat that this community had all those opportunities. Good coaching, good experiences, great teammates. So it was just really neat being around here, being supported with all the different sports that I was interested in. And in high school, a neat thing is the women's pole vault became an event, a state event. And the first ever women's pole vault event at a high school was put on at Anderson High School, which was put on by my father-in-law, which we didn't know at the time, of course. So Andy will put on the first women's high school pole vault event, and then I became a pole vaulter. Roger Ilg, I don't know if you guys know Roger, he came to me in middle school when I was running track and sat down next to me. He's high school, I was like, oh. But he sat down next to me and said, I hear that you used to be a gymnast, and I seen you run. Do you want to try the pole vault? And I was like, what is it? So he told me about it. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So he told me about some camps, and I went to some camps, and then just absolutely fell in love with the pole vault. And that kind of paved my way through opening doors for, it was just neat seeing the sport grow for women, because it was totally new at the time. So, and then just coming here to Wilmington College, you get like a little white card in high school that you fill out, and I wrote that I did swimming and track and field. I came thinking I would be a swimmer, and I did swim for 2 years, but on my visit, Tripp met me and talked to me, but I was also really impressed that Ron came, and I just thought that was so nice that he came and met me maybe in like one of these rooms and talked to me about the program, and just was really impressed by Ron, that he took the time out of his night to come talk to me, told me about the program here at the college, and I just knew it was going to be a really good fit. So, yeah, growing up here just was really neat. Had a lot of opportunities, I guess, to help me find my passions and what I really love doing.
Simon, how about you growing up here? How did that take away from your future in sports?
Yeah, for me, I'll start off when basically I started running, or at least when I remember started running significantly. For me, I was probably in the 4th grade when I actually took running somewhat seriously. My coach over here, Ron Combs, had a Clinton County youth group where he would have just different people in the community come out, and a lot of his college kids would help kind of run the camp. And me, myself, his son, and a couple other my friends came and we would run. At that point, we were maybe trying to complete a mile. It wasn't very good, but it was something that I really enjoyed doing. But I was always a baseball player. I had always played baseball in the spring. I didn't really do much in the fall, except go and watch my father coach cross-country meets at the Wilmington High School level. So when I was about in the 6th grade, you can only start middle school sports in 7th grade. I was basically getting out of school at the same time that the rest of the middle schoolers were getting out, but I couldn't compete. So I just started coming to practice. And 6th grade was really when I fell in love with it, and I was able to be coached by my father throughout my entire career at Wilmington High School. So it was kind of funny because, first of all, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was just recently a counselor at a high school camp. I was a college counselor, and one of my athletes was a student, and his dad coaches at the collegiate level. He's a junior right now, and he was telling me about how, I kind of want to go to the school where my dad's the coach, but, I'm looking at other schools too. And I just remember telling this kid, hey, you need to go to your dad's school if that's where you think you need to go, because being at the high school level for 4 years, 6 years, and having my father as my coach was one of the greatest experiences that I didn't realize at the time. But the memories that I collected, being able to have practices with my dad, coming home and talking about practice, talking about races, all those experiences really helped me just be here in the Clinton County area. And what's really funny is when I started to kind of progress through my actual running, and my time started getting faster, I thought I wanted to go to a Division I school. I had this what's called Division I or bust mentality. And if you don't know, Wilmington College is a Division III school, and Wilmington College was probably the last place on planet Earth that I wanted to go to. It's just in my backyard, and it was a D3 school. And it wasn't until probably sometime like my senior year, my coach over here, Ryan Combs, him and I were pretty good friends, but he finally just said it to me straight, was like, look, Simon, I think you should just come on a visit, you should check it out. Like, I know you've had Wilmington in your backyard for so long, but it's a lot different than you're giving it credit to. Why don't you just come look at it? And sure enough, I came on my visit, and it was between this school and another place, and ultimately I was just like, I think this is the place I need to be. And after 5 years, I wouldn't have traded anything for it. So just being local, hiring my father the first few years of my running career to get me really going, and just kind of learn valuable lessons. It's ultimately the reason why I stayed, and the reason why I'm still running now.
Now, Jerry, yours will, I have to tweak yours a little bit, because you didn't grow up here. But I'll still, the same thing, where you grew up, how did those young years kind of pave you and your path into coaching?
My path into coaching was very easy. I got cut playing basketball in high school. And decided I'd try coaching. And I did. My junior year of high school, I coached a 5th grade team. We went 0-10, but we did go to overtime in our last game, so I consider that a success. The next year, I had all the same kids back, and we won the league. Then I went to college and coached one of the real teams in high school and college, and just always kept coaching after that. I've always done it as a hobby. Even while I was here, I coached because I enjoyed coaching, not because I ever considered it a job.
David? How, and yours will, growing up in a household where your dad was always involved with sports, whether it was as athletic director, or football coach, or basketball coach, or golf coach, how did that kind of take you in your life's path? And I know you played some in high school, and but just how did that influence you growing up, and how did were you able to take that going forward in your career?
Well, disclaimer, I am no athlete, never was. I did my best. I spent most of my time over there at Ward Auditorium, and so forth. But I will tell you this. When I was in the 8th grade, I missed 36 days of school. Over 20 of those were basketball trips, because I traveled with the team. So I guess I spent as much of my early life with my dad and the Wilmington College Fighting Quakers. I always say Fighting Quakers. These are Fighting Quakers over here. This is the Fighting Quaker. Because, and I just always had I wanted to be with my dad, and I enjoyed it. It was the best education anybody could ever have. I mean, I got to be on every college campus in the state of Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. I grew up a little too fast, because here I was in junior high and 5th, 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade, and I was around college men. So obviously I grew up a little fast. But it was one of the best experiences I ever had. And when I came to college, the other thing I had to do was I was told, you will announce the basketball games. So no matter where I was, I had to go to her court and announce the basketball games. But and Becky's here, Becky Highland Haynes, and we both grew up on this campus. We know every nook and cranny of this place. In fact, when I was first born, in where Marble Hall is, there used to be adjacent to it a house, and my mom and dad lived there when I was first born. And I had all kinds of great babysitters, so mom could go to the ball games. And then we had the great Whittier Place Court, greatest basketball court in the history of man. And it was kind of, even when we were in high school, we always liked to come out to Whittier Place Court. And for those of you who don't know where the basketball arena was, and most of you don't, there was a street. This is off of here, but the sidewalk that runs in front of Boyd all the way up to College Hall was a street. It was called Whittier Place. And just on the other side of that was the Whittier Place Court, which literally was a horse pavilion that was built at the turn of the century for Wilmington yearly meeting, for yearly meeting. And they used to the Quakers would pull their buggies in all these little places. It was just an open pavilion. And so the college got the great idea they could brick up the open spots and put a basketball floor in there, and that was the Whittier Place Court. So it was a great influence on my life, watching my dad. I learned so much from the way he handled students and his approach to not just sport, but to life. And because he always saw that his players were students first and athletes second. And this was about what they were going to do with their lives, not just about what they were going to do on the court.
And now, before you give it up here, David, what was it like? Because Fred was not, he was a pretty soft-spoken guy. A lot of coaches aren't soft-spoken. Did Fred know how to turn up the volume on some of those guys?
Yes, he did, but one thing I appreciate about my dad is that he understood that you have to understand that when he came here in 1947, and his first teams were basically veterans. So how do you handle, even though they were still young men, how do you handle those folks? They weren't little newbies out of high school. They had seen the horrors of war, and they had been, so he had really adapted to learning how to deal with that and treat them as adults. And that's the one thing I always, he always treated them as adults and young men who, he did not treat them as kids. He did not berate them. He never did that. He always felt that the way to get the most out of them was to appeal to their heart, not to berate them. And so, yeah, he could turn up the volume, and you knew him quite well. I've seen him turn up the volume. Great story. Real quick. Football practice way back in the day. Manager comes running over to Dad and says, Coach, we need to get some tackling dummies. And Dad said, what do you need tackling dummies for? You got 65 of them out there. And so that was his approach to the game. So.
Now, Jerry, we talked a little bit beforehand. I was fortunate to, not all of your career, but most of it, follow your teams. You won the national championship in 2004. But, prior to that, you had some pretty good teams. Any disappointment that maybe that goal, that feeling of winning a national championship was never going to come? And again, not that 2004 wasn't your best team, because it
very second year here, I'd say it's as good a team as I ever had, which would have been 91, 92. We had Suzanne Coyne, who's still our all-time leading scorer. We had Deanne Arnold. We had Kathy Sprens from Wilmington High School. Katrina Butcher from Wilmington High School. That team went 20-4. It was our first year in the NCAA. And we did not win. We weren't in a league, I don't believe. And we did not get a bid to the NCAA tournament, which I felt was not fair to us, especially when we looked at the 4 teams we lost to. We were one ranked team in the country, another team that won the national championship that year, and another team that went to the Final Four with 3 of our 4 losses. But, so I thought that team could have won it all. I thought coming back to our 2002 team, got to the Elite 8. We got to host the Sweet 16 in the Elite 8 here. In the Sweet 16, we beat a Great Hope team. After the game, 3 of our starters went to the hospital, dehydrated from the flu. One other player got hurt. We got beat in a close game the next night. I thought that was a team could definitely won it all. In 2003, if you look at our record, if you look at our wins, I think many people think that was the best team we ever had. And that year we just got upset in the Sweet 16 by a Great Hope team. 2004, the year we won it all, we lost more games than we had in the previous 2 years combined. So, wasn't so sure about what that team was going to do. The year after that, we thought we had a team that could win it all. We won the OAC, lost 4 games. We lost the league championship in the OAC tournament. We did not make a bid. And then there were several teams after that where we thought could have won a championship and just didn't. But the 04 team, in my own mind, there's no special in any of those teams other than the fact that they didn't win it all. It was special.
I guess that's kind of what we like about sports, is that, here you just need an opportunity. Like that 91, 92 team. They just need an opportunity. They get it. The 04 team, again, regular season, a lot of losses. Well, not a lot, but as you said, more than the previous 2 years. But they got an opportunity and took advantage of it. And that's what kind of makes it special, where you guys were the underdog a lot of those games, and you just kept winning. And I think people still, even against both in the end, they give you, because they were still undefeated at the time.
We were the underdog in every game, starting with the second round of the OAC tournament. Capital, who I believe they finished second in the year, lost one of our starters to a torn ACL in that game. Ricky Morris had to come back and beat Otterline in the championship game. And then during the tournament, played 6 games and trailed in 5 of them at halftime. It's something, a flip switch between regular season and tournament season. When we were in close game during the regular season, we lost. I always say we won 20 blowouts that year and lost 6 close games. Really hadn't won any close games. Then we got to the tournament. Every game was close and won every one of them. So it was a great team. And it was
I didn't make my announcement.
I thought I said it all.
I guess that was my key to finish this.
Now, if you will, Simon, there are guys that have been on track teams that have had success as individuals, and they run a lot. But you've taken running to a completely different level. run? Do you know, maybe not anymore, but like when you started in college, I mean, do you think about that accounting quiz that Coach Sheedy's going to give you the next day? Or what goes through your mind when you're out there, just you and that space in front of you?
Yeah, it all kind of starts with just what all people like about sports. I think a lot of people love, talking in basketball. People talk about LeBron James and Michael Jordan and who's the greatest. What is greatness, right? And to me, I'm not going to pick which one I think is better because I just like the debate. I just like that people get to talk about forever and ever who's going to be the greatest basketball player. And kind of shifting that greatness, running is this really cool thing that I get to see how great I can be. I played baseball for 10 years. Baseball's a team sport. Lots of sports are team sports. Pretty much every sport. Running is the one thing, besides swimming, of course, I guess I'll say racing. Racing is the one thing that you can sit there and go against yourself every single day, every single practice, and see what can you get out of it. And so ultimately, to answer your question, a lot of my runs, I think about many, many different things. But a lot of times in the back of my mind, there's always this burning passion, burning fire of, I want to see what my body is capable of. I want to do this for the next 10, however many years, to see, hey, did I get to my potential? Did I get to my maximum potential? And what am I able to accomplish? So that's really just the main answer I give you. I got to this point, I feel like, because of that fire and just learning about running is all about consistency and just trying to push more and more. I always tell the story about how, in high school, I remember finishing like 16th, I think it was, at the district meet, my sophomore year of high school. I got destroyed at the district meet in 2 different races. And afterwards, I was just feeling burnt out, defeated, and I was having a walk with my father. And I looked at him and I was like, man, what do I do to get better? And the first thing he said to me is like, well, you just gotta run more. And we had a longer talk after that. But throughout my entire running career, I've been able to progress my mileage. Mileage is one thing that people really focus on. And I wasn't very motivated. I was running probably 30 to 40 miles a week, which if I wanted to become a really good runner, and running against high schoolers who were running a lot more than that, I wasn't going to do much. And so throughout my entire running career, I've just tried to progress more and more, and we've bumped those numbers up quite a bit, from starting in the 4th grade, barely finishing a mile. I run probably close to 90 to 100 miles a week. But that didn't start, just doing that in high school. It's been a slow progression throughout, and each year you just add more and more and see what your body's capable of.
Ashley, you, as you said, you were a gymnast, swimmer, track and field athlete. When you got to the college, you were doing swimming and track and field, and then all of a sudden, maybe not all of a sudden, not right choice of words, but then you gave up swimming. How difficult of a decision was that? Because I remember going out to the Clinton Swimming Tennis Club and seeing you guys swim, and swimming is just one of those life things that you can do forever if that's what you want. But at one point, you had to say no more. And competitive swimming, I guess, because you probably still swam a little bit, but competitive swimming, how difficult of a decision was that to hang it up?
So I swam, like I said, from age 4 all the way through high school. And in high school, I decided that's where I really wanted to put just all of my heart and my soul. And I swam on the team in Lebanon in the countryside line, where I practiced like 8 times a week, and it was all in. I also played volleyball and ran track, also through high school. But swimming was really my heart. Swimming is what I wanted to do in college. And so I came gave it like everything that I had, put all my eggs in that basket. But started to feel like I was losing that love and that passion for swimming. Swimming is a lonely sport. It's a really hard sport. You train. You've got teammates in your lane, but it's quiet. You're 2 hours a day in the pool, just your head in the water, no one to talk to. You can't banter around hardly. It's really hard. And I just have always listened to my body really well and myself. And one day it was almost immediate. Like I think I'm done. I think I'm just done swimming. And that nagging feeling would not leave. And it was after the season had ended, and I just kept thinking about it. And another factor was I was starting to do decent in track. So it was kind of tough going from swimming where my body was like this to track like this. And I remember Ron made like a subtle comment, like, yeah, you still have those sea legs. I'm like, yeah, I'm slow. But that my sophomore year, I qualified for nationals provisionally in the pole vault, and thought to myself, like, wow, I'm closer to making nationals in pole vault than I am in swimming. And I was pretty close in swimming too, but I was closer in the pole vault. And one of my dreams was to become an All-American. And so I just started to like really talk about it with Ron, who was just open and trip also, and decided. Ron had told me, we're gonna get a new coach who knows a lot about the pole vault, and so it kind of helped me make my decision. And then it was all in from there, and then my energy and focus just kind of shifted like that. And when I had my mind set on something, and a goal or a desire, I just kind of pour into it, and the rest is kind of history from there.
You talk about the mental part of it. I mean, you have always been a high-level competitor. So it wasn't, I guess maybe, did you maybe feel a little bit more relaxed, at ease, where it wasn't mentally tasking all the time to be in a pool, on the track, to only focus on one thing, which, even though you may do it all year round, it still had to be a little bit less mentally taxing to focus on just one thing, even at that level?
Oh, for sure. And then I would feel like I was behind because my competitors did indoor track and I didn't. So there's just all of these things adding up, and swimming is so black and white. The times are like really concrete, and and then it's like, oh, can I drop even more time? If I don't, is it a bad season? You just kind of go back and forth. But this pole vault was like hanging, like, man, I just keep getting better at this and better and better. And that was really appealing to me, to just try something new. And so, I decided to just put it all in for track and go from there.
Anybody have any questions? I have a little bit more for them, but anybody have any questions at this point before we forget?
Track is, football is considerably more technical in a lot of aspects of track. Do you have a lot of help with the technical side and through coaching or reading?
Yeah, that's a great question. The pole vault is very technical, and it's very easy to create terrible habits too if you don't know. Because I was falling off of just athleticism and gymnastics background kind of,
thought it was natural. It was 200 track kids were constantly running around our balcony so that I could never hear anything anyway. But that's the way things work.
Randy, you had a question?
Oh, sure. So, when you're in college athletics, you kind of dream of being renowned nationally, and Ashley, a national champion, and multiple All-American, Simon, a 7-time All-American, Jerry, national championship coach. David, you were involved with some national news, I think, involving Wilmington Fighting Quakers, right?
Yes. Okay. I knew you were gonna ask. So, I told you about I traveled with the team a lot, and we were at Bluffton College, and they had a rash of thefts going on, and the guys would go out and warm up. They did their warm ups. They'd come back in. Dad would give them their last, the last minute speech, the pre-game speech. Then they went back out to start the game, and the janitor gave me a key to the dressing room and said, "Look, you need to lock this up because we've had a lot of people, their stuff gets stolen." And I said, "Okay." So the guys went out, and I thought Dad was out with them. He had actually gone back into the dressing room to get his clipboard and whatever. And I locked it from the outside. And we're out in the court. The game is ready to start. Where's Fred? We don't know where Fred is. Well, the game has to start on time, so the game starts. And where's Dad? I do not know. We're looking around and everything. And finally, about midway through that about the first 8 or 10 minutes of the game, the janitor heard him banging on the door in the dressing room, came and unlocked it. And that story went out on AP all across the country. That coach gets locked in the locker room. Team has to start the game without the coach. And he got back out onto the floor, or back out there, and oddly enough, we were ahead, and so I didn't get yelled at because we were ahead, and he went right back into coaching, and we ended up winning the game. So, but yes, that was my claim to fame, and it was in newspapers clear across the country, and people would call up the house and do that, and say, "Hey, we saw about you."
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Having been a student here and helped coach the track team for 17 or 18 years, I know Ashley and Simon have been involved in the recruiting process from the student standpoint as helping recruit new students. And I'm sure Jerry's used his team as well to help bring in high school kids on campus visits and spending a lot of time with them. If you guys could maybe just a story or an instance or so where, I know Simon, we look at a lot of numbers, you look at a lot of high school results, and sometimes you guys come up with kids that we don't think about. And a lot of times it's the people that are currently on campus as students that influence high school kids to come to school here through their experience in the recruiting process. I know Ashley had a lot to do with Callum Martin coming here, who went on to win a national championship. Simon's responsible for his involvement with his current teammates. Anything you want to say about that instance, helping get somebody to commit to come to school here?
Sure.
I'll go. Yeah, I think a lot of it for me is, I briefly mentioned how I was kind of down to 2 schools, not name drop the other school, was Findlay, Ohio, Findlay University. And ultimately it came down to the people, like you said, who were around the team. I've gotten to go on a couple of overnight visits to both places. And I was just building a relationship with the men who were my teammates for a while. A big part of my decision to come here was Josh Cyrus, and I say to this day that he is one of my best friends and one of the best people I've ever met. And he's just a good guy, and I think that's really big in, I guess, first of all, the recruiting process. As I know it's easy to find people, or I guess it's easy to find schools that you think you might want to go to because of some of the items that the team might give you, or some of the things that, like trips you get to go on, all these luxurious things. I know myself, I got a letter from Ohio State, and I was sitting there scrolling on Instagram, and I was looking at all the posts that the track and field team were posting, and I remember one day I scrolled and they posted their Big Ten championships, and they all had the rings, the championship rings, and I was like, man, it would be really cool to go to Ohio State. And a couple days later passed, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, it would be cool to go to Ohio State, but I know in my heart, the only reason why I'm talking about it is because I'm going to go to Ohio State, I'm going to be a college athlete there, and I'm going to tell all my friends and tell my family and tell everybody else that I'm an Ohio State track and field runner. And ultimately, that wasn't my goal. And so the recruiting process, finding other people with the same goals and the same types of motivation. My current teammate Noah Toba, he's a lot like me. We go out and, like David said, like we go to war together. It's war out there. So it's really cool just finding the individuals that, first of all, when you're helping recruit, you want to find people that are a lot like you. It helps you get along with them. It makes things run a lot more smoother. But even on the coaching side of things, I can probably say that Jerry right next to me wants to coach, or wants athletes that want to be coached well. It just makes the job easier. So I tell any high school student who wants to continue at the next level, be coachable. It's kind of the easiest way to be recruited, and it gets people to like you too.
And now, a little bit before, and actually I want you to answer that question, but just being honest here, there was a period of time where people in this area, Clinton County specifically, coming to Wilmington College wasn't, I mean, if you went to Wilmington College, oh, that's nice. Nobody else wanted you. I mean, there was a time where the reputation wasn't so great for, for whatever reason. I was never recruited, never an athlete, don't have any idea. But so when you get to that point where you're talking to high school kids who may be on visit, what do you sell them on? Like Kyle was saying, how do you recruit kids to come here when maybe the prevalent talk is to go somewhere else?
You can.
For me, I keep pointing at him over there, but Ron, he did a good job of promoting, and it started with this idea of buying in. And first, running is a spirit sport once again in cross country. It can be individual, but it's also a big team aspect. And he truly believed that, hey Simon, if you come here, you can get better at running. But at the same time, I think our team can get a lot better. We had been a middle of the pack team in the OAC, always finishing probably around 6th, sometime even 7th. And he just really had to believe, hey, it can start with you, Simon. We can bring in this new wave of people, and we can get better athletes here and get a better team. So I remember our first year in the OAC, we finished 6th, and I was performing at a decent level. We had a gentleman who was older than me. He had started running really, really well. He had just finished qualifying to the national meet. So the pieces were starting to form. We were starting to get individuals here. And when your coach promotes to you and gets you to buy in, it's a lot easier for the athletes and myself to also talk to other kids and try to sell that buy-in as well. And so it was really cool. Throughout my time here, we just kept getting better. I know COVID happened, but right after, in 2021, we hosted the conference meet here at home, and we finished 4th as a team. That was one of the better performances we had in recent years. And right after that, I think it's safe to say we had our best cross-country team in 2022, where we finished 3rd in the OAC. It was our highest finish ever in conference history. And, you know, it all started with that buy-in that Ron had given to me. He's like, hey, you need to do this, you know, buy into it. I think we can do it. And then we all started believing it. So that's, I guess, short story.
I always found that I was a really good recruiter of kids that no one else wanted. They seemed to listen to me. A lot of them ended up coming. A lot of them ended up being very, very good players. We always mass recruited. I always felt there were enough players out there for everybody, and we just had to keep working to get the right ones. We didn't win a whole lot of financial aid battles with other schools, but we persistently recruited a lot of kids and got enough good ones to have plenty of success.
Can I answer a little bit of that? Which is odd for me to have to talk about it, but Wilmington has a history of teacher education and coach education. And in my father's time, when you're coaching 4 sports and you're director of athletics, you don't have much time for recruiting, very little. And but he would always tap the Wilmington College connection in that for an area of maybe 100 miles around, many of the high school coaches were Wilmington College graduates and so forth. So they understood Wilmington is a special place. We talk about that all the time. And we don't need to go into that part here, but it is a special place. But the Wilmington mystique, they would always have a good handle on saying, call him up and said, Fred, I've got a kid for you. You know, he wants to go to a big school, but he can't play at big school, but he would do a really great job for you, and he'll be a great student. And so that was this kind of this, where you throw the pebble in the water and the rings going out around us, brought a lot of good people here. And some of them never even played before. We were joking, Bob Touchton, who was a former board chair and a great basketball player, came to Wilmington College, had never played high school basketball before. Played 4 years for Wilmington. Just those who, like Jerry would say, that, you know, the kids that nobody else wanted. And yet they went on to prosper and do a great job.
Yeah. Anything else at the moment? Okay, David, you keep the mic. What was it like when your dad decided to stop coaching, stop being involved with Wilmington College athletics in an official capacity?
You know, it's hard, really. You know, we all talked about, we could talk about, you know, retiring and doing that, but it was just something that he loved. This place was in his blood, and you know, he attended here and came back to coach here and spent 52 years here, and you know, he started giving things up. He gave up football after about 10 years. He came in 47, gave it up in 57 or 58, I can't remember exactly, and because he knew that he just could not do it all. With football demanded a full-time, you know, he couldn't be thinking about the basketball season and coaching football. Just so he gave that up, kept with basketball, the spring sports, you know, because he used to coach track too as well. Started the soccer program, which is a quick story. Got a quick story, if you don't mind. My dad knew absolutely nothing about soccer. Absolutely nothing. But we had a very large group, large in Wilmington standards, a significant number of foreign students that were here on campus, and they said, Coach, we want to start a soccer team. We want to play soccer. Will you coach us? Because they knew if he didn't say yes, they weren't going to be able to do it. And he said, if you will practice, I will do it. Because he also knew that European soccer and they didn't like to practice like, he always thought American sports do. You practice and then you play. They were just about playing. So he said, if you guys practice, and they were from all over the world. There was one American soccer player that came out to play, Gary McCarthy, who ended up coaching for the Quakers many years later, coaching the Quaker soccer team. There were two brothers from Costa Rica who, the smallest crowd they had ever played before was about 20,000 people. And all of these guys played on club teams and what are called industrial teams in Europe or in their home countries, all over the world. So he gathered them together, and it was hysterical to watch. I remember going out there. The manager was from South Korea, and his name was Kim. His last name was Kim. His father had been the president of Seoul University, sitting in school over here. And Kim would always say, everything's okay. He was a great politician. When they would fight with each other, they would all start arguing in their own native language. and this is the truth. But anyway, they would get through it. So since they were a club team, there was no league sport. They had to get matches with much larger schools. Ohio State, Miami University, I forget all of them. So Dad takes his group up to Ohio State to play a club match. They beat Ohio State 6-0. And the athletic director pulls him as, Fred, don't you ever bring that bunch of professionals back up here. That's a true story. So that was the beginnings of the soccer program at Wilmington College. And obviously it's grown and become a great sport here. But he started giving those things up, and actually he lied to Jerry because he told Jerry that when he gives up the golf program, Jerry was going to become the golf coach. Except he never gave it up, and he was still coaching golf when he was 85, and finally did give it up. But I think it was all hard for him, but he was always a realist about things, and he saw where there needed to be younger people and more people, and he felt by passing the baton or passing the torch, it would grow the programs. So while it was bittersweet, it was always about the best for Wilmington College.
Yeah. Okay, final thoughts here. I told them all ahead of time to lead us to a story. And Ashley, you can lead us all there.
Okay. Well, I think the story that I am going to share is about perseverance. And so I mentioned that I had a slew of pulls that I revolved on. This is like early on. I had like a big surge of improvement, and there was this one pull that I had that was too big for me. It was hard for me, and every time I would jump on that pole, I would get stood up or send me back to the track. And we nicknamed that pole the truck. And the truck just gave me all sorts of fits. And so I just kept having my eye on the truck, wanting to be able to use that pole. And Kyle kept telling me, what you have to do is pressure your top hand. And I'm like, okay, pressure my top hand. I'm good at listening. I'm going to pressure that top hand. And I would still just struggle and go straight up and come back down, or go back down to the track. I just kept trying it. And then one time he said it a little differently. This is probably less known communication. He said, why don't you just try to bend the pole with your top hand? Oh, I think I'm pretty strong. I think I can bend the pole with my top hand. So ran down and around the truck, and I just bent the pole with my top hand, and had a great jump. And I said to him, well, that was a lot easier than pressuring with my top hand. And he said, what did you think I meant? I thought you meant like squeeze it with my pressure, right?
What was it like when you were done pole vaulting in college? I mean,
Yeah.
being such a competitor for so long,
Yeah.
almost year round, and then it's done.
Yeah, there was definitely an emptiness. It's just what you, everything, I always had a goal in mind. I was always training for something. I was always, had my eye on something I wanted to do and get better at. And then like that, the last jump it's over and you can't even kind of vault recreationally. I can't because you have to train so hard and just, I don't want to be able to jump 13 feet, but just go jump 9 feet. I'll just never do it again. That's what I've done. So yeah, there was definitely kind of an emptiness there, and then just kind of had to find my way in different areas to challenge myself. But yeah, that was a really new feeling for me, not to have something I was going after. For sure. So yes, thank you.
Simon, your story.
My story is also Ashley next to me. She mentioned something about goals, and goals have always been a really important thing in my life. And I think I should just kind of start where the idea of goals setting happened for me. So it really was my junior year of college, where I remember in the spring after the sophomore year, I qualified for the national meet for the first time, and I didn't have the same conversation I had with my dad from the sophomore year of high school, but I did have this feeling again of, man, I got here, but I didn't do as well as I wanted. Like, what am I to do? And I had been reading a bunch of stuff and watching like motivational videos, and people talked about setting goals in life, and I had many different talks with people about how, hey, maybe you should start setting incremental goals, like set little goals at a time to try and achieve something big. And once again, coming into the summer training, if you don't know a lot about distance running and cross country, summers where a lot of my running takes place. It's the majority of my running. So really I just got after it, started running more than I'd ever done before. And I had written down the goal and I put it on the back of my phone case. And I forced myself to look at it every single day. And even days where I didn't try and force myself to look at it, I knew I was looking at it because it's on the back of my phone. It's an object that I probably use every single day. And I just got into a groove that fall, and I started running really, really well with one goal in mind. And because I started in the summer in June thinking of one day, one thing that I wanted to try and achieve, all of June, July, August, all the way up until November, I was able to achieve the certain goal that I had wanted. And basically the thing about the story is I think that you can set goals in anything you do in life. It doesn't have to necessarily be running. It doesn't have to be sports in general. And I think just like, I wish I would see more and more people in everyday life, like, be goal-oriented, go fight for something, go shoot for something, right? Like, that's what I want to say.
Coach Sheehy, you're next.
I remember you asking this, but I didn't really think about it.
Well, let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
You got one?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
let me try yours. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Basketball coaches, I think most of them are going to look and say, we've got a point guard, really good, that will allow us to, we can build from that. Some coaches say, if we don't have a point guard, we're going to struggle. So, in 2003, it was Megan Woodruff, who helped kind of bring Clinton County into the Wilmington College women's basketball program. The crowd started getting bigger because of her. But the year before you won the national championship was her last year. And so you're going to go into that next year with a freshman as your point guard. And I don't know when you knew Sam Hood was going to be your point guard. Probably when she walked on campus the first day as, anyway, so you have a lot of talent around you, but no point guard. Your moment of what me worry, as you said before we started this, take me through that. How did that make you feel, knowing that you had a lot of talent, but no point guard?
Well, I'm going to tell two stories now, because you kind of piggybacked on the first one.
Okay.
And the first one was about Megan Woodruff. She was from East Wilmington. She's one of many good basketball players he's from Clinton County we have. When Megan came here, she was a good high school player. I wouldn't say one of our top recruits, but someone who her freshman year did win the starting job as point guard. And I'll never forget in her first two games we played in a tip-off tournament and lost. And in my mind, I said to myself, she's a starter. I'm stuck with her for 4 years. And it's never going to be as good as I want. I underestimated Megan. Every day she got better and better. I'll never forget, in the fall of her junior year, I thought team speed was going to be a problem. And in the fall, we're not allowed to watch them do their conditioning. Somebody came in to me and said, "You know who the fastest player on your team is?" I said, "No, not really." And they said, "Megan Woodruff." You're kidding me. And then when we got to practice, I saw she was the fastest kid on the team. She wasn't the year before that, or the year before that. Again, it was a constant work ethic. Every day for 4 years, at or before practice, or whenever she could find time, she took 100 free throws. Now, as a team, we practiced free throws probably less than any basketball team in the history of the country. We didn't practice free throws. We encouraged our kids to practice on their own, but we just didn't have the practice time to take to shoot a lot of free throws. So she shot 100 of them every day. I promised, I don't remember what I promised her, but I know I owe her something really nice, because late her senior year, she made all 100 of them late her senior year. And I know it was at least a steak dinner I owed her. I'll get it to her, get it for her sometime. It would have been illegal back then. But she was just a kid that I thought somebody might ask me who my best player was, but I think I can, and I'm not going to answer that. As far as a favorite player, I would say Megan for those reasons as well as many others. So to replace Megan, we had no point guard in the program. Amy Kinster was a starting wing who actually backed up Megan a few minutes. Megan didn't play her senior year, but we had no one else in the program. So we brought in several. I had no idea what point guard was going to be. Middle of September, again, preseason, Amy Kinster and Siobhan Zarella came into my office and sat down and said, "Coach, don't worry, we got a point guard." I said, "Really? Who's that?" They stand up. That's running this team, so I guess she's a point guard. And she was from day one. And she became a leader of the team from day one. She was the antithesis of the type of point guard Megan was. Megan was a leading scorer. Sam was a distributor, a leader. Megan was a leader on the court too. Scoring points was not important to Sam. Getting her teammates was the prime thing she was concerned with. And we had a group of players who, with a point guard like that, we knew could do special things. So it didn't take me long to figure out what she could do. As the year wore on, over Christmas, we always had a team meeting. By that time of the year, there were usually problems developing we had to solve, or even if there weren't problems, we made some up so we could try to solve some things. But that year we had some problems. And it was this freshman point guard who spoke up at that meeting and said some of the most important things I had a player say, to the point when I walked out of the meeting, I said to my assistants, "I don't know if we have a team anymore, or if we do, it's going to be senior made the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they listened.
That's good. But you probably didn't put that in life, did you?
She's playing.
David, you can wrap us up here with a story.
Okay. First of all, I'll thank the History Center, and I want to thank you, Mark, for hosting and asking these questions and having this time. The thing to remember about Wilmington College athletics is that from its very inception, the athletics here have always focused and represented the core values of Wilmington College. From these young people up here, and I've watched them grow up, so I know about them. And Coach Sheedy always have exhibited what Wilmington College is all about in terms of their core values, and they've taken that from their time in the playing days into life. And you know, you were talking about recruiting, and 60% of the students that come to Wilmington College have the expectation that they will participate in a varsity sport. And we actually have over 50% of our students are actually playing a varsity sport. So, what Wilmington College means, who Wilmington College is, and who our students are inseparable. They are the same. So I'm going to tell a quick story about my father, who I believe had put an indelible stamp on athletics at Wilmington College because he was all about the core values of our college. Now I'm 9 or 10 years old, and we were playing down in Berea, Kentucky. Now, I'm telling my age, and you all know how old I am. Jim Crow laws were in effect back in those days. After the game in Berea, we had one African American player on the team. His name was Arrington Archie. He was the finest gentleman you'd ever meet. We stop at a restaurant after the game, as we always would do, so the guys can get something to eat, and unload the bus. And the restaurant owner comes out and says, "Hey, you guys can eat here," but he can't. And my father said, and he said something, and Arrington said to Dad, he said, "Coach, just bring me something, I'll just sit on the bus." And my dad says, "Absolutely not. Everybody back on that bus. We all eat, or none of us eat." But that was pretty impressionable on a young man of 9 or 10 years old, and I never forgot it. So there's a lot more to just the sport here when you think about it.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Ashley. As we bring Shelby back up here.
So if you'd like to learn more about those, please visit our website, which is the most up-to-date information. Please be sure to take the handout with you tonight that you received. If you are not a member, that will get you a free entrance into our exhibit, which is all about Clinton County sports, and we have some really great memorabilia from topics that we've talked about tonight. And then if you would like to learn more about the History Center, please see me through the sports exhibit that we have created this year, which will be open until December of this year. We have found that we are severely lacking in sports memorabilia. So if you have something about Clinton County sports, Wilmington College sports, we would be more than happy to talk to you about donating or loaning that for our exhibit and adding that to our collection. So please see me if you'd like to learn more